p.m. in the nation's capital. The name of this show is News Views. My name is Garland Nixon, and I'm on every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. That's the time, and I have a good time, and hopefully you will be part of my show every week. You will be a part of the family. All right. Plenty to talk about as always, but what I want to do, as you know, if you know anything about Garland, I am an independent. I was a Democrat. I believed in the Democratic Party up until 2016. Well, let's just say I had my doubts. Okay, I was starting to have my doubts in 2016. There was some, I was a big Bernie fan, and I liked Bernie, and I really thought that Bernie Sanders was going to get a fair shot. And when he didn't get a fair shot, I lost all interest in party politics. I felt like, hey, this ain't a democracy if, we can't choose who gets to run in the general election. So, that being said, I became an independent. That's where I am today, which brings me to my guest, a good friend of mine, a brilliant guy by the name of Teddy Fikre. Teddy, welcome to WPFW News Views.
What's going on, Garland? How's everything going?
Everything's going just wonderful. Here's my question, Teddy. Let's start here, because the reason I have you on here is because you're running for Congress as an independent, and I think that's an admirable thing. And, believe it or not, there was a time when I would just say to you, you're running as an independent, why waste your time? Now, right. Looking at the way we've got what people call the Uniparty, I think to myself, we need people to run as an independent. We need some options. So let's start with this. Where are you running?
So I'm running in Virginia's 8th Congressional District, which is Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax, Southern Fairfax. And so to answer the question about, why is it that when people say, are you waiting to vote by voting for an independent? The answer for me is very simple. Voting for the same two parties. And let me ask you this, Teddy. Make sure you have your mouth very close to the receiver, because you're getting a little muffled at times and sometimes. So make sure your mouth's real close to the seats, because sometimes it's a little harder with a phone to get a clear signal. But okay, go ahead. What I was saying
much better.
Voting for the same two parties that have the collective likability of COVID. The popularity rating for Congress is 7%. So, Americans are fed up with both parties. And so, if we keep voting for the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result only to get the same thing, that's a wasted vote. So, I humbly submit that the time is now more than ever to actually vote for independence. Because both parties have shown over decades that they're not interested in our, in taking care of we the people, the American people. They're interested in taking care of the plutocracy of multinational corporations, and our interests always take a back seat. So now more than ever is the time for us to finally declare our independence and get someone that actually knows our pain. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm not a millionaire. I know what it feels like to put gas in the car and see the price escalate every day. Whereas a lot of these politicians these days are millionaires or soon enough to be millionaires working for billionaires, and that's just not working for us. So we need authentic, not the type of built on sloganeering, but someone that actually knows what our pain feels like, and that's why I'm running as an independent Virginia.
So, and whereabouts you?
Sure, it's in 8th Congressional District, which is Alexandria, Arlington, and Southern Fairfax. Right on the tip, on the border of D.C. and Virginia base, the northern part of Virginia.
Okay, wonderful. So let's talk about this. Your thoughts. If I'm, let's just say I live in your district, and sure. I walk up and I say, okay, here's the thing. I believe I'll never forget. I had a professor say this to me one time. I never forgot it. He was talking about influencing people, and he said, always remember this. Everybody listens to the same radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? He says, if you want to influence people, don't just walk up to them and say, hey, do this for me because my life will be better. Everybody wants to know what's in it for them. So I'm running and I say to you, hey, man, you want me to vote for you there? Yes. What's in it for me?
Sure. So about 7 years ago, on a personal note, I went through and endured 2 years of homelessness. And before that, I was very much playing into the divide. I used to view myself as a hardcore Democrat, I used to vilify Republican voters, and I used to collectively blame white people. Going through two and a half years of homelessness taught me that when it comes to human suffering, there's no boundary. We're all being pillaged. It's just there's different degrees of it. So what's in it for you is very simple. The only way that we can get the change that we're looking for is if we create a coalition that transcends our differences. Essentially what Fred Hampton was trying to do in the 1960s before he got assassinated, which is to reach across the social divide and actually work with a group called the Young Patriots Organization, WPO. In today's terms, that group will be labeled a white supremacist group. But yet he sat down with them and convinced them that the pains of black folks are intimately linked with the pains of white folks. And there's to this day, one of the most iconic pictures I've ever seen in my life, where on one side were white folks, sitting under the Confederate flag, on the other side a Black Panther Party flag. And nobody could say that Fred Hampton was a sellout. So he figured out at a very young age what we're missing today, which is that we need to be able to link the pains of everyone. So if we want our individual pains to be addressed, we have to. It is an imperative for us to create a coalition that transcends every social divide that's imposed upon us. And at the end of the day, I see what this game for what it is. I'm originally from Ethiopia. And so what they've done over the years in Ethiopia, and the same playbook was used against other African countries, is they've convinced us that someone that's from a different ethnicity is our enemy. And so then we butcher each other. If you look at what's going on in Ethiopia right now, we're literally butchering each other to death on a daily basis. Meanwhile, the wealth of the nation is being siphoned off. And a very few privileged elite are benefiting from the system. The same thing is going on in America, except here the tribes are, based on color, belief systems, ideology, left versus right, black versus white, and we're being conditioned all the time to fight one another. Meanwhile, the wealth of America is being siphoned off to these multinational corporations and the global plutocratic owners. And so we've lost sovereignty as America, and the only chance that we have to regain it is if we actually work together as one people and stop falling into the divisive tactics of the establishment.
So once again, we're talking with Teddy Fikre, and he's actually running for Congress as an independent in Virginia. So, Teddy, what kind of things, when people say to you, okay, those things sound good, what kinds of legislative changes need to be made? What kind of things, if you are going to say, I think we need to introduce bills and fight for the following things, what kind of things are on your platform?
Sure. So for me, it starts and ends with economy.
Yes, I agree.
Bill Clinton ran on the economy stupid. Well, I'm kind of going back to that, except he never did anything to actually address the pains of the people. So everything starts and ends with economic policies. So, for example, the tax codes, where the average worker is paying up to a third of his or her income, while billionaires are paying zero. That's deeply unjust. And that's an indication of the moral rot of this country, where billionaires are getting off scot-free and janitors are paying more than, in terms of marginal tax rates, are paying more than billionaires. So we need to flip that around. We need, we keep having, Tupac said a long time ago, they got money for wars, but they can't feed the poor. Every time when it comes to issues that matter to us, they say we have no money. But yet they come up with billions of dollars to give weaponry to every country around the world. So we could come up with the money. This money is basically, they print it on demand as is. So it's time for that money to come to us. And that means, for example, one of the things I'm actually going to propose very shortly is to, instead of having compulsory taxes, you kind of do what's called a pay can, where Americans, the ones, either the working class, middle class, upper middle class, they pay as they're able. It becomes voluntary. And this, by the way, has been shown to be very effective when you give the people a chance to give according to their heart, as opposed to based on price points. They overgive. So people that can give, they can give, and the ones that can't, they get a tax break for once. we deserve a jubilee. So one of the main things is tax policies. Another thing is to rein in the sheer influence that the federal government has in our lives. We need to empower our communities and stop outsourcing our power to bureaucrats who do not live amongst us and have no idea what it's like to live in the communities that we live. So, and part of that would be incentivizing entrepreneurship over giving all kinds of preferential treatment to corporations, especially multinational corporations. What made America great were workers, some, by force and most by choice, and small businesses. These multinational corporations are not job creators; they're job destroyers. They come into a community and they wipe out small businesses, and then it's a race to the bottom when it comes to wage. So we need to empower our communities by keeping our money where it's at, and a lot of that has to be in terms of how the policies are enacted that benefit small businesses over these huge multinational corporations.
And once again, we're talking with Teddy Fikre. He's running for what district are you running for Congress?
It's in the 8th Congressional District, which is Alexandria, Arlington, and Southern Fairfax.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to get into specifics, but if I said to you, okay, what if Teddy Fikre, you're president tomorrow, what's your foreign policy?
So, essentially it boils down to this. Follow the advice that George Washington gave, which is stop being the police of the world. We've been in continuous state of wars for over 50 years, and what has that given us? Other than homeless veterans everywhere, suicide rates amongst veterans that's skyrocketing. I believe there's a veteran that commits suicide every 20 minutes. I'm in D.C. right now, and the sheer number of homeless veterans is astounding. So instead of giving more and more money to these the military-industrial complex, we're really now as military financial government complex. That's one of the things, by the way. Eisenhower, when he gave that speech, there was one thing that he wanted to include, which was the military-industrial government complex, and he was advised not to do that. So that's what it is. You have this this unholy alliance of corporations, of financial sector, and the military weaponry corporations. They're working together. We keep there's bloodbath everywhere, and we're not getting any closer to peace. In fact, we keep getting further away from it. Now we're at the doorsteps of World War III. So I humbly submit that it's time for us to stop meddling in the affairs of other countries and take care of our people here. There's millions of people that are suffering. The infrastructure of America is crumbling. It's unbelievable. The sheer number of homeless people. Like I said, I experienced it myself in 2015 for 2.5 years. It's astounding. Before I left the Northern Virginia area, homelessness was something that you saw in D.C. Now it's in the suburbs. It's everywhere. We're all one or two missed paychecks away from that reality. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because I'll throw a couple of things out that people are concerned. We're talking with Teddy Fikre. He's running for Congress as an independent in the 8th District in Virginia. So people's concerns today, two of them: gas prices, food prices, inflation. So the things that I've looked online and I see some very wealthy people. Well, hey, we can afford to pay high gas prices for this reason or that reason or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, you're not filling up your limo anyway. You're riding in a black car, and the person who's driving it to pick you up is the one who filled it. Who filled it for you? You don't know. And when I go to the grocery store now, I'm just like on an average day, and I buy a couple things that I like, and I've spent $40, and I think to myself, man, if people who, like when I was growing up, my mother had 5 kids. Right. People who have 3, 4, and 5 kids right now, man, how are they doing it? So your thoughts on this increase of prices for the basics of people, the survival of the average person now, putting a roof over their head and food in their children's mouths and gas to get to the work or to store or wherever they need?
Yeah, it's people that have the privilege of eating caviar and sipping Chablis. I get to sit up here and tell us to let them eat cake. But that's not the reality of the situation. There's some people that are saying, well, it's time to get electric cars. These cars cost $40,000, $50,000.
I'm telling you.
The average worker does not have the means and the wherewithal to do that. This is the Beltway bubble and the Hollywood bubble. And this is exactly why someone like me, like I said, I'm working 2 jobs right now to make ends meet. You know, Congress, the lower house of Congress, the House of Representatives, was supposed to be people like me, not millionaires working for billionaires. Now, to your point about these runaway costs of everything, of goods and services, it's very easy. The solution is not that difficult. When you have, on a global scale, consolidation, monopolization of marketplaces by a few companies, then they have no competition, then they can, jack up the prices. The only thing that could, drive down the cost of goods and services is competition. When companies have to compete with one another, actually there's 2 benefits. One, it increases the competition for workers, which means by derivative, the price of labor goes up. We're able to make more money, and by extension, the cost of goods, whether it's commodities like gas, food stuff, whatever it is, that ends up going down. The more you have, you essentially have a handful of corporations, for example, that monopolize the food industry. The poultry industry, I think, only has one or two companies have more than 80% market share. That is suicide. Monsanto, look how much power that they have.
Yes.
So again, it goes down to reining in the influence that these multinational corporations have, and part of that is decentralized government and decentralized corporations. Small businesses are good for America. When it comes to the imposition that the federal government has in our lives, the lesser the better. And so when he explained it this way, if I told people that I'm either Democrat or Republican, before they even listen, they dismiss it. But when I told them I'm independent, and then I actually explain why we need to decentralize, why we need to retain more of our money locally, why we need to retain more of our power and decision making locally, they listen, they get it, because nobody is happy with the status quo. So the answer: decentralize and stop letting these few companies have such a level of monopoly on every aspect of our lives.
So let me throw something also at you. I'm throwing stuff at you. You're a politician, so you know what's coming. Okay. And these are things on my mind, and I think these are things on some of the average voter's mind. So I want to hear what a politician has to say. When I think to myself, I think 2008, there was a crash. And the billionaires and the wealthy never made as much money before in history as they made immediately after 2008. They devalued, the value of everything went down, and they bought it all for pennies on the dollar. COVID came, and there was the COVID economy, and people lost stuff, and the value of things went down, and they bought it for pennies on a dollar. As soon as COVID was over, look at this, there's a war, and the price of oil went up. They start making a fortune again. Now, I got to add this. In the last few days, the price of oil on the market barrel has gone back down. But the price at the pumps has not gone back down. They've taken the opportunity of a difficult period, well, whatever you want to call it, to increase their profits dramatically on our back. So what do you say about this kind of chaos theory thing that I say, where something dramatic happens in the economy, or they create something dramatic in the economy by blowing the Wall Street out or whatever they do, they take advantage of it and make a fortune, and we, the working class, lose more and more. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you think needs to be done?
So, this phenomenon you're talking about, it precedes 2008. If you go back to 1929, every 7 to 10 years, all you have to do is pull up the charts from the Dow or S&P. Every 7 to 10 years, there's a tremendous downturn. There's a recession, and sometimes almost a daggone near depression. And every time what happens when they do this, when they time the market this way, is that those who have cash become kings, because Americans end up selling everything pennies on the dollar because they're distressed. So it's almost like, they're calling the riches of America, and that goes right into the savings of the billionaire class. And this has been going on, like I said, almost 7 to 10 years, from 1929 all the way to now, right? And so what happened in 2008 was, by almost every means, almost as bad as what happened in the Great Depression. Like I said, this was not a theory. I saw it firsthand. The majority of people that, when I was homeless, that I met that were homeless, became homeless after 2008. So you have a system of theft, is legalized theft. And what happened at 2008, and this is why, for me, why I left the Democrat Party after what Obama did, because he essentially rewarded, the same banking criminals that bled the economy. The Citibank, they had a veto power about who sat in his cabinet. The whole of his administration were nothing but the mouthpiece of multinational corporations and bankers. And meanwhile, the people that voted for him, they got foreclosed upon by the millions. Deeply unjust. And so, if you look at the wealth gap, which is always the wealth gap between the few who have and the many that don't, has always been wide. It became a chasm after 2008, and even now with COVID, the companies that benefited, small companies, got destroyed. There's so many small companies that went out of business. Meanwhile, multinational corporations like Zoom, like Amazon, like Uber, who I actually work for part-time now, made a killing. So, this is, again, when you have a whole government, the system of government is built upon protecting and preserving the riches of the global plutocracy and multinational corporations, and not doing anything on our behalf, this is what happens. So as long as we have only two parties in power, which Democrats and Republicans are both corporations. So they're incorporated, and these two corporations are owned and operated by multinational corporations. This is not a democracy, it's a kleptocracy. So the only way that we can unwind the influence of multinational corporations is not by voting for more Democrats. It's like, if you put new blood in a cadaver, it's not going to revive the body. So we need new voices, new faces, and independent. That's the only chance that we have. And so that's why I'm running for Congress as an independent. I'm not taking a penny from publicly, quote unquote, publicly owned corporations, and I'm an independent. If I end up getting elected, I'm not going to commit to caucusing to either one. I will, depending on who responds to the needs of the people, I will switch back and forth. So, just imagine a closely divided Congress, where Congress go down to a handful of seats. Imagine someone there that's like a Joe Manchin, but yet instead of being a veto for corporations like Joe Manchin is, it becomes a veto for the people. So that's what I'm envisioning. That's what I'm working towards.
Let me ask you this, another thing, and I'll give you two examples, and I'll go. Adam Schiff is a member of Congress from California. He has the largest homeless encampment in the world in his district. He has also never seen a war that he wasn't in favor of, and he Raytheon literally has fundraisers for him. Let me go to the other side of the country to the guy that was the governor of New York, Cuomo. During the COVID crisis, one of the things that happened was that he had he endorsed some legislation and had it passed. The legislation was literally written by an organization. It was the New York or New York City Hospital Association, an association of these large incorporated hospitals, that protected them from being sued regarding COVID, but later it was found when they looked in the legislation, it protected them from being sued for other things besides COVID. So they're doing all these terrible things, sending people in who had COVID in the hospital back to nursing homes. I mean, all kinds of terrible things, but they were protected because of legislation. So my point is this: money in politics and lobbying. Cuomo didn't do that because he liked the New York Hospital Association. He did it because they put $2 million into his political machine. I don't think Adam Schiff all this stuff is just because he's in favor of everyone. It's Raytheon is raising money for him. So we see these people, it's like he who pays the piper calls the tune. Money in politics, lobbying. Your thoughts, Teddy? You're running for Congress.
You know, at the end of the day, we, the people, have a lot more power than we think. But sadly, too many of us have been conditioned now into, you know, when the elections come on, they say that, oh, this is the money primary. So now we gauge how whether somebody is qualified to run for office based on how much money that they raise. This is crazy. We're celebrating our own religion. We live in an age of social media where we literally something could overnight could become a big thing if enough of us work together. So then, instead of feeding into this narrative that tens of millions of dollars are needed in order to field a competitive candidacy or campaign, we should make money a poison. Someone says, I raise $20 million, see them exactly for what they are. That should be a disqualifier. When you raise millions of dollars, that should not be a qualifier for office. That should be a disqualifier. That means they're bought out. Campaign contributions are, let's call them what they are. They're legalized bribes. They're kickbacks. There's always a quid pro quo for this. Corporations and rich people don't give money without, they see everything through the prism of investment, return on investment. So every dollar that they give, even charity, the so-called charities that they give money into, is to elevate their Q ratings. It's nothing that they give away that doesn't come without a benefit to them. So if the benefits are bearing, you best believe it does not benefit us. So then when a politician says, I'll raise $20 million, automatically can't. If you want to talk about cancel culture, cancel politicians that raise millions of dollars from these unaccountable and unknown sources. And also, don't let them skirt the issue. When they say, I'm not taking a penny from corporations, yet they have PACs that take money from them. Essentially, if they're either Democrat or Republican, I don't care what they say, they are a corporation. They themselves belong to a corporation, so therefore they are taking money from corporations. They're taking money from the DNC, RNC. So don't let them gaslight us anymore and see the money that's flooding our governance for what it is. Toxic. It's a virus. It's the COVID-19 of politics is money. And we need to see it that way.
So let me ask you this, and again, I'm throwing stuff at you. This is Teddy Fikre, Fikre. He's running for politics in Virginia. On Twitter at Fikre for VA, Fikre number 4 VA. You can find him on Twitter there. Fikre, Fikre for Virginia on Facebook. Okay, Teddy, here's the other thing that I think it's important for us to think about because it ain't working. So here's what we're told. Hey, we've got the first fill in the blank. Woman, female, trans, straight, whatever the case. The idea, and so what we're sold something. Someone says, do you want someone who's going to give all the money to, and this is my thoughts and then I'm going to throw it to you. Do you want somebody that's going to give all the money to the corporations? No. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll give you a black female. That'll give all the money to the corporations. Oh boy, we'll give you a trans person that's going to give. So there's a politics happening now. It appears to me that it is tokenism. And they use the word diversity, but when we don't like the politics, they find someone else, and there's like BIPOC. They even come up with new numbers. A BIPOC, black or indigenous person of color, blah, blah, blah. All of that. but we don't get a change in the politics. We just get a change in the person or color of person or sexual orientation, whatever the case may be. So your thoughts on that whole agenda of what I call tokenism, some people call it woke politics, whatever. You know what I'm getting at, your thought on that?
Yeah, it's the great bamboozling of America. Diversity in boardrooms, while there's poverty among society, is not progress. It's a lie. I don't care about the first left-handed women, people of color, transgender. I care about the people at the bottom of society. You know, we measure the wealth of the health of a nation, but not by the wealth and the special access of a few, but by the many, by the position and the plight of the many. So, you know, so congratulations. You now have a black person in a country club. What does that mean for the city that person happens to live in, where the rest are struggling and on on welfare and trying to make ends meet and they're not able to? I care about the last hungry, the last child to go to sleep hungry at night. I don't care about some what is their identity here being admitted to a country club so they could have their caviar and chablis. I care about people being able to meet their needs, their basic needs, and that's how we should gauge it. And so this idea that we now have a new token that comes in and that's supposed to make the rest of us happy, their achievement has no direct outcome on our status in life. So we need to gauge progress not by the achievements of a few, but the status or the everyday life of the rest of us.
So that's the answer. I'm thinking, and that's how I feel. Now, something else I think is important, and this is a word that's got to come out, and this is something that I want to ask a politician who's an independent. Here's the word Trump. Right. To me, in American politics, Donald Trump, the phenomenon of Donald Trump has been one of the best things that could happen to him, because we are now told we should hate, quote, and I don't even know what this word means, Trump supporters. People get called Trump supporters because do you believe this? No, you're a Trump supporter. It's almost like saying you're a poopy head. You're a person I don't like. You're in a category that I don't. So now I should not be friends. I have literally heard people in my life say, well, if somebody came to my house and I was going to get them to mow my lawn and I found out they were a Trump supporter, then I wouldn't support them. And to me, it's like, first of all, as far as our Constitution, you have a right to vote for anybody you want. You can be a member of any party you want to. You have all of these rights, and I don't have a right to judge you. And number one, here's the other thing I said. Donald Trump, to me, represented that a lot of people, he kind of ran as an anti-politician. There was a lot of people who were just sick of the mainstream, sick of things, and they voted for Donald Trump as a protest vote. It was like this. Anything is better than what we've been getting. Well, Donald Trump is out of the office, and we've got Joe Biden, and we were told he was going to make America normal again. And you know what? Anything is better than Joe Biden at this point. The only thing people can do is make excuses for how bad he is. So your thought about the division, about somebody's a Trump supporter, we're supposed to dislike them, that whole concept.
Right. I mean, let me get this out of the way. I am no fan of Trump. I see him as a continuation of Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, going back to Reagan. They're all the same. They're all the same. They're all a bunch. You know, behind the scenes, they drink together and they're laughing at us. It's like this is the greatest show on earth, WWE, where the characters change, but the policies stay the same. Now, to the point about whether are we supposed to hate his supporters? I don't even judge his supporters. I get it. I know what's going on in there. But it's the same way that I felt for the deception that was Obama, right? When Obama came around, was talking about issues that I care about, and made me feel as though, well, here comes someone that's actually, it talks about the pain that I feel and gives hope in areas that I feel hopeless in. We are very susceptible to being hoodwinked by that. So Obama did it to the left, and Trump did the same thing to the right. You know, and like I said, for me, it took homelessness for me to realize there's a common humanity about us. There's a commonality about pain. People, the more there's poverty, the more there's hopelessness, people become tribal. So the way to address this, if we want to alleviate racism, if we want to alleviate hatred and the anger and the divisiveness, is by empowering people so that they have time. The time that they have is invested in actually doing stuff that's productive in life. The more people are productive, the less time that they have to hit on other people. So I get what he did to them. A lot of white folks on the right felt like nobody was speaking to my pain. Here comes a demagogue giving voice to their pains. And they felt for him the same way that the left felt for Obama. So this is the deception of identity politics in that way. We become very susceptible to demagogues who know how to gaslight us and to make us believe that they care about us when they don't. If you look at the history of Donald Trump, he screwed over more poor white folks, and working white folks by refusing to pay his debt. And he kept declaring bankruptcy. How do you make America great by declaring bankruptcy dozens of times? It's a lie. The whole thing was a lie. But he did it to us the same way that Obama came around.
Can I add something, Teddy?
Sure.
One of the things about Donald Trump, and again, I'm no fan of Trump, is he was honest about a few things. When they went after Trump and said, hey, you swindled people, you didn't pay taxes, and you didn't pay people, and you filed bankruptcy, he didn't deny it. You know what Trump said? Hey, Joe Biden and those people created those systems. Don't blame me. And you know what? It was the truth. Was he a swindler? Of course. But you know what? When the Democrats put Mike Bloomberg up because they thought he was going to run, he's a swindler. He's a billionaire. The Republican billionaires are swindlers. The Democratic billionaires are swindlers. I have one other thing. In my life, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, to have been able to go to events and to hobnob with the upper crust, as it were, right?
Right.
And you know what I found? I've gone to events with the super rich.
Right. Where
weekend events where you're there to hold the whole 9 yards, right? There ain't no parties to them. There wasn't Democrats and Republicans there. They see themselves by class. They see themselves in a group. You know what? If someone in the lower class does it, they'll say, you're a socialist, you're a communist, and you're dividing people by class. The wealthy see a class. And they are class conscious. I actually heard someone, I used to be at Fox News. I literally heard a person in the green room at Fox News when Donald Trump was saying some things. I'll tell you what it was. He had said that George W. Bush lied us into a war. When he had said that, I was at Fox News then. I was in the green room waiting to go on, and I heard one of the rich people in there say, he's a traitor to his class. Now, if a poor person said that, you're a communist, a socialist, you're blah, 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 blah. But amongst the wealthy, that's the terms. They are very cognizant of class. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, look, wealthy people, the only color they see is green, right? So they care about protecting their money, and they will go with whoever's going to preserve their money. So for them, in fact, let me tell you, and a lot of people just know this to be true. The very rich white folks see poor white people no different than they see black folks. They hate them. They despise them, to be honest.
You're right.
So,
they have nothing but contempt for them.
Or they call them trailers, all kinds of stuff. It's very conceptual what they say about them. So when it comes, if you happen to be part of the 1% club, there is no left and right. There's no black or white. There's just money. If you have the money, you're in. And then at that point, they work together. They work. Here's the difference between, and I hate to feed into the expressions then, but the reality of the situation is this. What they do brilliantly is they're united and they think long term. They have 20-year visions, right? So people that think 20-year increments will always defeat people that think day to day. They act, we react. So we need leadership that will head to D.C. and say, I'm not going to fall for this BS anymore. I'm going to speak about the issues that matter and speak against the way that we're being divided and bring awareness to the corruption that's taking place in D.C. And I'm sorry to say, you will never get that from Bernie. You will never get that from AOC. You will never get that from Cruz. They're actors. They're paid actors. they're essentially what they call sheepdog. They're sheepdogging us, and they're a mixture of sheepdog with gaslighters. Gaslighters is what they are. And so we need to stop falling for this.
Once again, we're talking with Teddy Fikre. He's actually running for Congress as an independent in Virginia District 8. You can go to Fikre, Fikre, and then the number 4 VA. Fikre 4VA, and that's the number 4, Fikre4VA.com. And he's at Teddy_Fikre on Twitter. I'm with you 100%, Teddy. And you know what's interesting, and that is, not only has our government have contempt for people for the working class. I've been to countries in South America where the person who's in charge of the country, one of them was a bus driver, another one was a farmer, where they were indigenous people who are have been at the lowest rungs of society in those societies, very striated societies, and they move up, and the United States literally overthrows or tries to overthrow the government of countries where some bus driver or farmer becomes president. Not only does the U.S. have contempt, the U.S. system have contempt for the people here who work in those positions. If you go to an actual country where the working class, the working poor, or the poor rise up as a leadership, the U.S. goes in and like the National Endowment for Democracy and the CIA go in and fund all of these things and try to overthrow the government so they can go in and they can seize the resources, the oil or lithium or whatever it is of those countries. Teddy.
Yeah, and it's also to eliminate a better alternative, right? Do you really want a country out there that has a bus driver? For example, I guess going back to kind of plugging my campaign, in Congress right now, how many people actually are working and know the pains of the common man and the common woman? Zero. That's it, right? And so, I was, I'm not trying to hesitate because I'm not in this to negative campaign or anything like that. But I do believe in accountability. My opponent is uber wealthy, and he made his fortunes during Obama's car reinvestment. That whole act where cars were clunkers and all that kind of stuff. While millions of Americans were becoming homeless. He made his fortunes, and so this is an endemic of the rot of the government that it has become, where in order to be accepted into the halls of power, you need to have millions, and so if that's the case, what do they know about our struggles? What does a millionaire know? I remember a long time ago, Bush was asked about the price of milk, and he had no idea, none.
But that was, if you remember, also the elder Bush. He went to a grocery store, and he didn't understand the slider thing all over, and it gives you a price, and it beeped, and he didn't know what it meant. You know why? Because that's what the cooks do. That's what the help does. You go in, and they have your food prepared, and it's waiting for you. The idea of the concept of shopping wasn't there. So their idea about prices going up, I still remember during COVID, during the lockdowns, Nancy Pelosi, I'm sure people know what I'm going to say, they showed her, and she was at home opening these refrigerators that were $12,000 each, showing this ice cream that was $12 a pint. Saying, yes, it's wonderful, and you can order this, and they'll bring it, and it can be delivered. Well, you know what? If you can afford a $12,000 refrigerator, you really ain't got a whole lot of worries. So the bottom line is they are out of... They're not even on the same planet as us.
Look, let me kind of dial it back. I know I could get very passionate about these things, but it behooves the very rich to kind of be a little more humble and ensure that the wealth is being shared, because we're nearing the disparity of the French Revolution, where that book A Tale of Two Cities.
Yes,
that was about Paris, where you have one Paris for the aristocracy, and then you have another Paris for the poor, who were almost all Parisians back then. And How that ended? Not very well. You know? So, and I'm not trying to make any type of threats here. I don't believe in a revolution of violence. That always devolves into the same violence that it gave birth to. You know? But at the end of the day, though, people, when they get pushed and pushed and pushed, at some point, hopelessness breeds violence. And so, you know, America is edging towards that level of strife on a monthly basis. I mean, there's people talking about the 2022 election or 2024 election to give rise to civil war. This would have been dismissed as conspiracy theory.
Let me ask you this as a comment on this, and I'll give you my thoughts. So sure. I'm turning on the TV, and they're saying now these smash and grabs or whatever are coming in D.C., where a whole bunch of young people, a crowd of them, will run into a store, just grab a whole bunch of stuff, and run out. Right. And the discussion was they're bad young people. It's about individual badness and they're bad kids. And I said it's about a country that has become unstable. You know what I mean? It's if you just put it at the individual, well, it's just a person that did that. I don't think it's just a few bad apples, as they say. I think you got a rotten orchard, the country, when people are running in stores in crowds, grabbing stuff out of desperation. And might I add this? They believe they live in a lawless society. When you see the leaders of your country who don't care about the law, then ultimately the people who are at the bottom will stop caring about the law also. And this is an unstable, lawless society that it's becoming, and it's not going to get better with this level of instability. Your thoughts?
Well, you're talking about smash and grab. Let's talk about what bankers did to us in 2008. I
got to give you credit. That was a good one, and you're right. Go ahead.
the biggest smashing and grabbing in the history of humanity. How many of them went to jail? How many of that? Oh, those same people are now back on CNBC, and we're praising them as they repeat the gambling addiction that that got us here. So it's always like this. We vilify the poor. If you want to talk a war on society, look what we're doing to kids. From the minute they're born, we're giving them all types of unhealthy food. We're just giving them media that is not even, that's poison by itself. And I'm not blaming parents for this, by the way. When you feel, the stresses of having to work all the time, sometimes it's easier to just give a child a phone and say, I need a break. So the parents are under tremendous strain, and they're limited financially, so they give their children all kinds of, cereal that if you look on some of these boxes, the food that we're giving our kids, the information they're consuming, which is toxic. So are we surprised then when kids grow up to become young adults that do this? They're victims in this. They're not to be vilified. Maybe we should spend more time. Well, maybe we should invest in our children instead of investing billions of dollars into these multinational corporations and giving away billions of dollars to defense companies. That is being siphoned off to other countries in the name of justice, where really it's all about making fortunes through bloodshed. Once again, we're talking with Teddy Fikre. You can go to his website, Fikre. It's Fikre, and then after that, the number 4, Fikre4va.com. He's running in District 8. And, that's I mean, this is important stuff. I think it's an important discussion that we're having for this reason. Because the politicians that we live in, and I'm glad you're running into that we have in America, the politicians that we have, and I'm glad you mentioned, like a AOC or some of these people who come out and say all the right things, right? But here's the issue I have. There's certain rules on Capitol Hill, and here's one of them. If you're a Democrat, you're allowed to say the Republicans are terrible, the Republicans are awful, oh, look how bad the Republicans are. And if you're a Republican, you're allowed to attack the Democrats. So an AOC or whoever, right, they may tweet and they'll say something like, wouldn't it be good if we had Medicare for all, whatever the policy they advocate for. Oh, we really need to. Oh, we should. So you'll get these strongly worded tweets from them. Then you'll get these almost food
food fights against the Republicans where Marjorie Taylor Greene goes after AOC. It reminds me of the old hip-hop wars, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene goes after AOC. Ooh, did you see AOC burnt Marjorie Taylor Greene? And we get this chewing gum for the chewing gum for the brain. But there is no content there. Nobody's actually, they may imply we need to do something about all of this income disparity or something, but they're not going to put in legislation that says we need to reinstate Glass-Steagall. How about we do something like that? That's something that could be groundbreaking that needs to happen. We need to reinstate some of the banking legislations from that FDR put in back in the 1930s. That were taken out and allows Wall Street to do anything, substantive things. But instead, we get a food fight where Marjorie Taylor Greene got burnt by AOC, who got burnt by Ted Cruz, who said something on Fox News. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just, if you want, a little side note, if you want to make America energy independent, take the kerosene away from these gaslighters in D.C. Because on both sides, you have legions of gaslighters. It's crazy what they're doing. And what they're doing is it's like one big circus. And you look at Bernie, for example, he always says, these Republicans, oh, really? Your party's not doing this? And Pelosi's not doing this? And the same thing on the right. And so what they do is it's codifying the us versus them thinking. And so as long as they get you to point at the other side, right? It's crazy how, when it comes to issues that we care about, that we the people, irrespective of our differences, here's the plain fact: whether you're Republican or Democrat, left or right, more and more people are saying no to these never-ending wars. More and more people are saying, and this is almost a majority, if not above super majority, are saying rein in the cost of health care. More and more people are saying, reorient the taxes so that we the people are paying, less than a billionaire is, right? But yet, by focusing on what the other side is doing, then there's always the supposed quote-unquote gridlock. So when the issues that we care about, Democrats can go up there and say, well, this is not for the Republicans. Give us one more vote and we'll be able to do this. And they never do. They never do. And the Republicans do the same thing. So it's always finger-pointing at each other. But now, when Wall Street comes knocking, immediately everyone's not right. Look what happened in 2008. Wall Street said, "Hey, give us trillions of dollars." Boom. There was no gridlock. Gridlock disappeared. What happened to gridlock? Gridlock is only for when it comes to issues that we care about. So it's this is the ongoing bamboozling of America, where these two political parties, they're I don't know what else to call them. It's political mafias, and they're working together. The mere fact that there's a presidential the commission that is run by Democrats and Republicans, and they get to determine who gets to be on the stage. This is corruption on a scale. I can't think of it. I'm a fan of history. I can't think of another country that has this level of corruption, except by using euphemisms and marketing and calling graft and bribery campaign contributions. We normalize what is very abnormal. So we need to. If we have any sort of unwinding this, again, we have to elect independent, truly independent people into the. Let's start with the House. Get one person that could do this. And then this movement will grow. And so that's what I'm banking on. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Well, let me add this, and I've always said this. If you look at parliamentary systems, sometimes you'll see a party that only has 5 or 6 people in it, but the party with the most people need those 5 or 6 people in order to have a ruling coalition. In the Senate, oftentimes it's 50 to 50, 49 to 51. If you had 3 truly independents, we got fake independents, but they're with a party. If you had 3 truly independents just 3 in the Senate, they could decide which party is the ruling party.
Right.
Those three independents could go to both of the parties and say, all right, let me give you a list. Here's 10 things I want. Whichever side gives me the most, we go with you and you rule. And if you cross us up, and we want ours first, we don't want ours last. You know, like Malcolm X said, we send you there, we put you first, you put us last. If there was three independents, they could say, here's some things we want. The first legislation that will be passed are these. After you pass those, then we'll stay with you and you'll be the ruling party. So we don't need 49 or 50 independents. We need 2 or 3 in the Senate, and it makes a difference.
It does. So the problem, though, is that when you these independents, the minute they caucus with one party, they become extensions of whatever party they're caucusing with.
Good point.
So as independents that say I'm a permanent free agent, at any point I can flip. And flip the government with me in the process. That is independence, you know. And so again, you will not get this by electing career professional politicians. Okay, for me, I'm not a politician. I'm not running to be a professional politician. If I'm elected to represent Virginia in the 8th Congressional District, I will retain my job, or at least one job. And I'm going to do it the way that the founders envisioned, which is...
Well, and unfortunately, I hate to cut you off, but you've done a fantastic job. We are out of time. So let me give you, everybody, it's www.fikre, Fikre, then the number 4, Fikre for VA, right? Teddy Fikre, he's running for Congress, District 8. Thanks a lot, Teddy. I certainly appreciate it. And all right, my friend Teddy. Thank you. At Garland Nixon on Twitter, Garland.Nixon on Instagram, garlandn@gmail.com. I want to thank Kalia, did a fantastic job. You know I love my house music. I'm out.